This is episode 142 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Welcome to episode 142 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Today I have Jeremy Ivany on the show. Jeremy was on the show a little while back, about a year ago, and since then he's more than doubled his portfolio. He is just absolutely crushing it. So he and his partner Taylor, they run their business together where they are focused on Chatham, Ontario, where they're buying units, they're doing perfect BRRRRs, they're adding improvements, pulling out a lot of cash and growing their portfolio aggressively. They're now up to 60 units, and Jeremy on this episode talks about how he never expected to be where he is right now, how he's grown from being the guy that works on his site, doing his own renovation, doing their own management, to now being hands off and not even going to Chatham anymore. So the rate at which these two move is absolutely incredible. I don't think I've seen another couple that it's done it quite like they have. It's just really impressive, and it's always great to catch up with Jeremy and hear what he's doing, how he's thinking, because he's a very creative guy, and he and Taylor have tons of great ideas. So we really dig into that on this episode. Tons of gold nuggets were dropped, so I highly recommend give this episode a couple of listens so that you can soak it all up. Just before we jump into that, please make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell. Leave us a comment and let us know what you think. And if you're listening on the audio versions, if you wouldn't mind, take a moment and rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts, just so more people can find the show. It'd be greatly appreciated. So without further ado, let's jump into episode 142, our catch up with Jeremy Ivany. Here we go. Hello and welcome to the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. I have Jeremy Ivany on the show for a second time. Going to give us a little bit of an update on what he's up to. Jeremy, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, Andrew, man, I'm glad to be here.
So I'm sure some people haven't heard your first episode. Why don't we just start off with a quick Cole's notes on kind of where you started and where you've gotten yourself to now?
Yeah. So I started real estate investing 2.5 years ago. I'm 25 years old right now. I invest full time as well with my partner, Taylor. She also recently just quit her day job. So her and I are both in the business, complete full time now. In the past 2.5 years, we've done about 30 deals, 16 of which are now buy and holds. The rest have either been properties we've sold off to trade up to larger buildings. And we have a core focus of investing solely in Chatham into mid-sized multifamily properties. We kind of started with the single family duplex, triplex. Now we're trying to work ourselves up into some of the more medium-sized multifamily buildings. We've purchased a couple 12plexes and really just utilizing the BRRRR model, using other people's money and more creative financing strategies to continue growing our portfolio more on the sole ownership side versus more of the joint venture side, which is something we've dabbled in a little bit, but realized kind of early on, definitely sole ownership is better than giving half of it away.
Well, yeah, all things equal, I suppose. Yes, you're all right.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's just unpack that a little bit. You said you are using other people's money, but you're not necessarily taking on JVs. And I know originally you weren't really taking on JVs, but you started dabbling in a few of them. So how are you using other people's money?
Yeah, so a lot of what we're using other people's money for is, typically what we're doing is we're buying underperforming assets. So we're going in there paying cash for the properties, doing renovations to the property, getting the property up to its best and highest use. So for, a good example would be a 4plex that we're working on right now. We went in with a private lender, then utilized other people's money to kind of support the renovations and the remaining down payment required. We're then going to turn over all 4 of those units in that 4plex, bring it back to our credit union that we have a really strong relationship with, and then own the property 100% versus, like I said, using a joint venture partner where maybe they bring all the capital in. So you have less stress of being like having that worry of like, can I pay this money back? But at the end of the day, we still own the asset 100%.
Yeah, and that's going to really pay off long term when you divest of these and you're not giving away half of the value of them. Obviously, that's huge. The only thing I say with JVs is sometimes people bring more to the table than just money, and if that's the case, then it's a different deal, right? Like my business partner, I've worked with him many times. Like it wasn't 1 + 1 = 2. It was like 1 + 1 = 5. So
exactly,
that's where it gets really cool when you can do stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, I own a few properties with James Fernandez. Very similar situation. It's not a 1 + 1 = 2 in that situation. It's like he's got a lot of really cool ideas, unique ideas, and we can kind of foster that relationship together to actually grow an asset more than maybe just myself would be capable of doing. So there's definitely pros and cons for both strategies. for
Right,
sure.
absolutely. So your typical structure, are you mostly just promissory notes with these people, or are they doing second mortgages or what?
Yeah, I mean, we've done a mixture of everything. Obviously, as investors, it's promissory notes is like, the gold way. In my opinion, I love
Yeah, it's so
promissory
much
notes.
easier.
So much easier. It's just, oftentimes it's just a handshake deal versus obviously, having
Yeah.
to go the second mortgage route, registering it on title, making sure you have enough equity to register that loan on title.
Oh
And
yeah.
then obviously, it could kind of hurt you down the line too, with maybe you want to refinance that property. But
Yeah.
maybe that second mortgage is stuck onto there. Maybe you don't want your lender to find out, things like that. So definitely try and stick with the promissory notes as much as possible. And
So
especially now we've developed a good brand for ourselves, and kind of seems like people want to just give us money. So it's
yeah. Yeah, that's what happens, right? You get rolling and people want to lend you money. So you had, I think, like, what was it, 9 properties a year ago when you were on this show, something like
yep,
that. And I think one of them was a JV or maybe two.
yep.
So what are you at right now?
So we got 16 properties. We've got 60 units. So we've actually doubled our portfolio since last year, and
Okay.
we've actually yesterday we just tied up 4 more properties. So we're going to be adding another 15 or so units to our portfolio, and that's kind of the trajectory we're on right now. We really want to put ourselves in more of a growth stage. So we've tried to. I think last year I was talking about trying to develop our business around what it's going to look like in 2 years, and now we're really taking that into action and thinking, for our kind of outlook in the next 2 years is want to own 200 units. And we're trying to figure out, like, how does our business operate when we have 200 units? And let's operate it right now like that. And so we're
Yeah.
trying to outsource essentially everything we don't like doing, or we're able to outsource to somebody that's going to do it better than we would do, is what we're focusing on right now.
Okay. Well, there's a couple of things I want to unpack there. So why don't we start with what you're outsourcing, and then we'll dig into one of these deals and kind of get an idea what you're looking at and how you're running it.
For sure. Okay, so I'll kind of start with what am I not going to outsource, and then I'll work it backwards. So what I'm not going to outsource is raising private capital and sourcing the deals and analyzing the deals. Pretty much everything beyond that is going to be outsourced. So property management is going to be outsourced. We're actually about 2 or 3 more days away from never having to talk to a tenant again, or at least having very limited contact with tenants. We're hiring a VA to kind of help us with social media and kind of just be more consistent with social media. So starting a YouTube channel just to kind of teach more people and kind of put our message out there more of financial independence at an early age is, I think, what a lot of people want, and just trying to focus on how do people get there. So hiring a VA to help us do that. Now that Taylor is involved in the business more, we have a lot more time to to outsource things. Whereas before we were kind of in this survival mode where it's like, I don't even have time to outsource because I need to do these things, and there's like really no time for it. So
Yeah, you were still doing work. That was 1 year ago.
exactly.
You were
Yeah.
in the units applying your electrical skills and other handy skills.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't even do any more renovations. I don't do any more maintenance. I actually don't even really go to Chatham anymore. I probably go to Chatham once every month and a half, 2 months. So really trying to operate my business as if I was in a different country. We're actually going to Costa Rica for a couple months. So I'm trying to like really get in the mindset of how do I solve this problem with my phone? And oftentimes you can solve really any problem with a few text messages. And that's what I've realized. Because before I used to really get entangled in the business and think I need to be the problem solver for everything. And oftentimes I can just be the coordinator to solve these problems. And I've been a lot more efficient just kind of operating that way.
And the next stage after that is hiring a new coordinator
Exactly,
to
do that.
That's what I get my site supervisor in Sarnia to do. He's the coordinator. I still do some of it, but I try and give him more and more. But I'm starting to realize I'm overloading him a little bit, so I'm probably going to have to, maybe move some of that over to a VA or something like that. Now that is something I want to dig into more. But you said you're not going to be outsourcing a certain number of activities. I'm guessing coaching is one of those.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely don't want to have this kind of coaching business where we have a bunch of people working under us. Coaching kind of just started out of the blue. So I had this student that a student that I'm coaching right now reach out to me, and he said, Jeremy, I basically want to do what you're doing. And I said, well, I've never really done this. I've never really taught anybody how to do this before. And I said, but I feel like the only way I'm going to be incentivized is if you pay me. So we just kind of figured out like, okay, what should it cost for the year? And we just kind of mutually agreed on it. And then he started getting a lot of success, right? We were doing weekly calls. He's about 7 properties since I've been working with him. And that's only been 6-7 months. So,
I'll chat
and then
him.
beyond that, I'll chat him. A lot of them he's bought off of me, and I've just kind of just helped him navigate that sort of business, right? Because he doesn't have experience buying properties. It's like he came to me with never having a property under his belt. So, and then kind of beyond then, just kind of word of mouth, and then obviously just him speaking to other investors and me speaking to other investors. More and more people kind of get want that accountability, and that's really where the coaching has kind of taken us. But definitely, I feel like a lot more enthusiastic teaching people that really want results. But I think it's more of just kind of a side business, and really at this point focusing on like growing the real estate side of things.
Yeah, awesome, man. Okay, so I have a list of questions here I wanted to ask you about. Can we just, before we get off of the topic there about outsourcing, so coaching is obviously something still internal. You're not going to be outsourcing capital raise. Obviously, that's very relationship oriented. Your structure there, are you just paying people like a monthly return and then paying them back their money at the end? So it's pretty easy for them. Okay, and anything else that you're keeping in house?
No, I mean, I was actually I was out in a mastermind in Hawaii a couple of weeks ago. And one of the things we focused on is like, what am I actually, like, what are you good at? Because the problem I think a lot of real estate investors have is we jump into this and then we just develop this business that we didn't even know was a business. So we start wearing all of these different hats, right? So, that's kind of what happened to me. We grew so quickly, and then all of a sudden I was like the property manager, even though I had no property management skills. And then I was like the contractor, and I was the maintenance guy, and I was wearing all of these hats, and that's not why I got into real estate. So then I kind of took a step backwards and I thought, what do I actually enjoy doing in real estate? And I like finding properties and buying them. And I think beyond that, I don't really have any sort of connection with real estate. So that's really what I want to build my business around. I want to think, what do I want to do? And then bring on the people that are better at doing what I don't want to do to me, and kind of create something cool in that sense.
Okay, so how are you finding these people? And I know property management was a big one. Obviously, that's a big thing off your plate. You guys were using, I think, Buildium before.
Yep.
Is that still a system that you're going to be on with a property manager running it, or is this all changing?
No. So Taylor went ahead and she pretty much interviewed, I think, every property manager that would either return our call or was in Chatham that would do property management in Chatham. We had a big focus on, this is where we're going. Can a company that we're going to hire, can they come with us along that journey, right? So we didn't want to hire a company that, maybe only had 30, 40 units under their belt, and then all of a sudden we were going to give them 60. And then, in the next year when we bring on another 100, can they support that? So it was really difficult to find a company that kind of fit our criteria. But yeah, that was really just like how we're finding them, is we're just kind of going through all the due diligence process and making sure like the people that we bring on our team are, kind of fit our core values. So we want people that I want everybody on my team to be somebody I can be like best friends with. I want them to be like people I would invite them on vacation with. I don't want there to be some sort of firewall where it's like, I'm above you or you're below me, whatever the case may be. I want us all to kind of grow together. And I want everybody around me to be in that same mindset where it's like, this is where we're going, let's do it. So same with, we're actually hiring an acquisitions person to help us with kind of not really wholesaling, but bringing in more off-market properties for ourselves. And when I was kind of writing out what this person looked like, I just thought, like, do I know anybody like this? And I knew somebody like that. So when I was in Hawaii and I kind of had this realization, like, I know this person, I just called them up and I said, when I'm back in Canada, like, we need to get together because I have a job offer for you. And it was something I wasn't really comfortable doing, right? I've never actually hired somebody full-time and offered them a salary, but I thought, like, now's the time to do this because there's gonna be no better time than right now. So
is this somebody I know? I feel like I might know.
No, you don't. You don't. You might know a few other people that I had in mind, but there was somebody, like I said, it's somebody that I think is going to fit our core values kind of as we continue growing. And I want that to, I don't want to have this business where we're always turning people over. I want people to come with us and stay with us and really, make a bunch of money with us. So,
well, yeah, that's the interesting part, right? In a time like this where it's never been probably harder to find good help. I mean, although some of the, people getting let go from other jobs maybe can come over, but with all the incentives to stay home, how are you attracting this good help? And that, in this case, I guess you've kind of answered it. It's that there's an enthusiasm about what could happen and how much money could be made.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, you can convince anybody to do what you want if there's a certain dollar figure behind that ask. And I think that's really what it comes to, right? Like I don't want to pay industry standards because the person I'm hiring isn't an industry standard person. They're above and beyond that. So I'm gonna compensate them beyond that. So the compensation is really good in my opinion. And the base salary is really good. So that's really, and that kind of goes with all of my contractors too. Anytime they do a project for me, there's always a bonus at the end, whether the job maybe took a little bit longer than expected, because I understand, like, even when I was doing projects, they took longer than expected, but I'm always incentivizing people that I'm not the only one here out to make money. I want everybody else around me to make money as well. So
give me an example of how that would, like, what that would look like. You don't have to give any names of contractors, but just like an example of what the structure would look like.
Yeah, for sure. So we had a 2-bedroom unit that came up. I was able to move a tenant in one of my triplexes into a fourplex, and she moves out, I want to say probably like the 10th or 12th of, let's say, July. And then I had somebody that would have rented the unit for August 1st. Now the rent was going to like double. And I really wanted to get this unit done. We had to rip out all the drywall. We had to replace the kitchen. We had to take down some supporting walls and put in some beams. We pretty much renovated an entire unit in 10 days. Wow. I honestly, like, my contractor would have been able to do this in 2 months if I had given him 2 months. But I said, is there a way where we can get this done in 2 weeks so that I can move this other tenant in and I don't lose him? It was like a AAA plus tenant. So I didn't want to lose this guy. And they did it. And at the beginning of the job, I just looked at everything. I said, what are some of the barriers we're going to face in this job? So I made sure all the material was on site. Everything was there. There was no reason why it couldn't get done unless time. They got it done. So the last day, there was 6 of them there. The last day, I went into the unit and I gave every single person there $500 cash. Nice. Still to this day, they talk about that like it was like a life-changing moment for them. Not because the $500, because they actually felt respected by me. So I do this stuff all the time. One of my contractors just hired a new employee. I was at Home Depot. I saw there was like a tool set on the table. I knew he just had like an impact, but I knew he needed all these other tools. It was like $199. Came back, brought him the tools. Again, just like the happiest person I've ever seen. Just these small things, they really add up.
Yeah, that's a great message, and you're getting me thinking about how I can implement that in my business, because I like it when it's not expected. Which is, if you could just surprise someone with something when, it wasn't on their mind, that I think they appreciate it that much more. What I like to avoid is when it just becomes standard. So do you feel like you doing something like that now, next time they'll be like looking at you when you come in on the last day? Okay, where's my bonus?
Yeah. I mean, I really just look at it as like, how much money am I making and how much money can I kind of just afford to, give away, especially at this point in time. Like, losing a contractor is like, I don't know what it can compare to, but it sucks. It really sucks. Trying to replace a contractor is very difficult. So whatever I have to pay, so be it. I had a contractor that was kind of just falling behind. He was very loyal to me. And then, I just noticed jobs kind of weren't getting done, or I'd ask him to do something and it was taking a little bit longer. I said to him, what's the problem, man? Do you need more money? Do you need more time? Do you want to stop doing these jobs? I said, it's something. There's obviously something going on, because we never had this problem. And he said, yeah, he said, I'm actually doing some of these other jobs because they're paying a little bit better. And I said, what do you want to get paid? And he said, $35 an hour. I said, okay, done. Yeah. Right. But, yeah, sure. Maybe in a year's time, he's going to say, I want $50 an hour. Is he going to be worth $50 an hour? Probably. But, I just have to do case by case and just kind of understand. Yeah. I want to keep people incentivized too. Right. I know how it was at my job. So.
Yeah, $35 an hour is actually a steal for good help.
Exactly.
If they're skilled, right? Like, obviously unskilled can't get paid that much, but yeah, you might even be into a $50 an hour's territory. I mean, to me, I've noticed that these guys want to be paid by the job when they're that good that it's not really an hourly anymore. But, that takes a different level of thinking to be able to price the jobs. And a lot of them don't want to do that work. So if you can get them hourly, I mean, if they can do the work of 2 workers in half the time, then I'll pay them $100 an hour. Like, what does that matter at the end of the day if they get paid what they're worth?
Exactly. Most people jump ship. Really, it's ultimately to do with that dollar figure. And you just, when I was in Hawaii, I was hanging out with a lot of guys that were buying like 100-unit apartment buildings, and their biggest issue was having like they needed like a second person on their team to really help them grow their business. And a problem a lot of them were having is a lot of these big corporations were paying astronomical annual salaries to these people, so they could never retain employees. But then a good question that they ask is like, what's that employee worth if they're not there with you, right? So like, how much money are you actually losing if they're not in place? And I like to think of that all the time. Like, what's a contractor worth to me if I don't have a contractor? Well, it's worth a lot because my jobs are losing money. So,
yeah, but we have to kind of dig into the elephant in the room here, where most people are doing conversions here in the Greater Toronto area, and not getting a perfect BRRRR. Like they're into these deals after refi for over $100,000.
Right.
You're not in that kind of scenario, right?
No.
So the attitude can be quite a bit different.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's business by business, right?
Yeah. So what's your typical deal look like just at a high level?
Yeah. I mean, I just picked up, so I'll talk about my fourplex that I just picked it up off market, $315,000, which like, I stole the property, but, it's going to be, so we're going to put about $80,000 into the deal, using all private money, paying this private lender $20,000 for $400,000 for 6 months. Really good deal for the private lender.
Yeah.
All in for about $420,000. It's going to be worth about $580 when it's done conservatively. So pretty close to 100% ROI first year. Getting it at about $6,000 in monthly rent. All utilities paid for by the tenants. So,
okay. So let's kind of run through those numbers. Are you going to be 75% loan to value on that?
Yes.
Which credit union is it, if you don't mind me asking?
Libro.
Okay. Yeah. A friend of mine uses them for almost everything, and all his student rentals and stuff. They do them.
Yeah. They're very, very nice to work with.
Okay. So you're going to be 6,000 gross rent. So 1,500 a unit. That's a nice healthy one. What are your taxes going to look like there?
$2,100 a year.
Wow, that's low. And when you do
crazy.
When you do the rentals on these places, is it typically like no permit required, or?
Yeah, these are cosmetic renos. So just paint, flooring.
Okay. And would you be like $2,000 a year on insurance for something like that, or a little bit more?
That we are actually $310 a month on insurance. It's actually quite high.
Yeah, I've noticed insurance just going up and up. So that doesn't surprise me. What do you like to budget for maintenance for a place like that?
So we just do what Libro likes to see. That's just how we run the numbers to make sure the DCR works. So they use 10%, so we use 10%.
Hey, I'd rather be pleasantly surprised than negatively surprised. So I don't blame you. Okay, utilities, are you doing inclusive?
So one of the units is going to be inclusive. So we're going to be we budgeted about $400 a month for utilities.
Okay. So that's $4,800 a year. And then management, what's your structure for management going to be looking like?
So we're paying 5% management fees.
And that includes leasing?
No, leasing's $300
per unit as well.
Per unit.
So we could just gross it up to 6% for kind of like an average, including leasing needed. That's actually still a steal, $300.
Yeah, we negotiated pretty hard with that. So we kind of just did the pitch of, hey, we got a lot of people coming to us about Chatham. We'll shoot them over to you. Give us a good deal.
Your property manager is going to have all the leads, right? Never ending business.
Exactly.
So you get the good deal. Now I imagine they don't give everybody that deal.
No. Most people are going to pay 7.5%, 8% with them.
Okay. So let's see. I'm just taking a note in case I decide to invest in Chatham.
It's a good place to be. It's a very good place.
Yeah, man. Well, there's still cash flow there, right?
There's a lot of cash flow.
Landscaping. What are you going to get into there? And snow removal.
So we're about $80 a month year round for both snow and grass cutting.
Okay. And then I like to just leave 500 miscellaneous there. So you figure your new value is 580, right?
Yep.
So you're an 8% cap rate there at 580. So I imagine Libro has no issue. So they're probably a 25-year amortization.
Yep. 2.75, give or take.
Yeah, that's not bad. Like that's one property and your cash flow is going to be like $1,700. Just one property, 4 units.
Yep.
So on a per unit basis here, you are $444 a door. What would you say your average cash flow is on your units across your portfolio?
Per unit, I mean, it's scattered. We have some home runs. We have a triplex that we bought for $160,000 $70,000 and it's grossing like $5,000 a month. Put about 80,000 into it.
Wow.
But we're actually going for we bought it for 175. We refied it last year for 320. And we're going for a $700,000 refi right now. I'm not really sure if we're going to get it, but my appraiser thinks we're going to get it. So we'll see.
These properties really do pay you.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, your net investment on this one's going to be, negative 15,000 after you're done. So you're going to get 15 grand back. So I understand what you mean. Like when there's money in the deal like that, it feels like, okay, yeah, I can spread a little bit of this around to keep my team happy. And I like that ideology. And I actually, that's kind of how I started for the first time in my life. When I did my first, what ended up being a flip, I actually felt like I can actually afford to pay good people. I'd never felt like anything I'd done before, sales related or like little small companies. I'm like, I never felt I could pay help. And this was the first business where I felt like I could. And yeah, that's awesome to see that in action. Actually, I had your LTV a little wrong there. Your cash flow is even better. You're like 1,900.
Yeah, that's going to be
80%.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's going to be okay.
So this property was interesting. I had to buy actually. So this property came through from a property manager, and so I found the owner, or I was introduced to the owner, and he wanted me to buy his first 2 duplexes. Now I was in the point. This was back kind of, I don't know, May of this year. So I was in a position where I was like, I don't even know if I want to own any more real estate. I was really comfortable with where we were at. But then I found out he owned this 4-plex, and I said, can I buy this 4-plex? And he said, when you close on these 2 duplexes, then I'll let you look at the 4-plex. And but I had already assigned the 2 duplexes to somebody else, and so I was really hesitant when it was closing, because the seller or the buyer wasn't even sure if they were going to close. It was a really messy closing, but then I was able to get this 4-plex.
Nice, man. So you're getting them from your property manager. This is the new one that you're working with?
No, this is actually just one so this was an interesting one. I had this idea once when I was trying to, like, earlier this year, we were wholesaling a lot. We did quite a bit of wholesaling this year. And I was thinking about it. I'm like, what's the goal? Like, how do I actually get in front of an owner? Like, what's the best way to get in front of an owner? Because Chatham, it's like pretty much all just renters, right? There's not a lot of people that like own properties that live in like Toronto, but they own properties in Chatham, right? So it's not like you can't really door knock and talk to an owner. You can door knock and talk to a tenant. So I had this idea. I'm like, every time I rent a unit, I'm going to ask the person for their landlord's number. Like when they message me on Facebook, I'm just going to say, what's your landlord's number?
Okay.
And I did this. I honestly only did this for probably like 2 days, and then I got sick of it. But I got like 8 properties just doing this.
8 properties just asking?
I honestly, that is how I got, those 2 days are literally how I've got like the majority of my off-market properties this year. Man, because I got so many numbers. I said, yeah, absolutely. You can come look at this unit. Please let me know who your landlord is. And
okay. Now, did they just think you were doing like a landlord check? Like,
yeah.
Yeah. So it's a make sense question. So you get them on the phone and then just ask them, hey, any chance you're looking to sell?
Yeah. And then a lot of times they'll spill the beans, like, oh, I want to move because there's a drug dealer in this unit, or the landlord doesn't care anymore, or, the roof leaks. There's so many like things that like tenants will
that's gold.
Yeah.
That's a great strategy. I've heard a lot. I haven't heard specifically that one. And that's, I'm going to try that.
It's awesome. It's like, and I've thought about, I tell all my students this now, I'm like, just create like fake units and just get people to message you and just ask them why they're moving. And a lot of times it's like, I hate my landlord. Awesome. Who's your landlord? So, and I mean, similar to, I do a lot of door knocking, and I'll always just say, hey, I own the property like 3 doors down from you. I just need to get in contact with your landlord. Maybe we're building a fence, or maybe we're doing work on the street. I just kind of need to get to, I need to have a conversation with them. They'll always give you the number, but you know what they'll never give you the number for? Hey, I want to buy your house. Give me your landlord's number. And then they're paying $500, and no, this guy's going to make me pay $1,200 or kick me out when he moves in. There's a 0% chance they're going to give you their number.
Wow.
So you just have to think like, who am I actually talking to here? Because if I'm talking to a homeowner versus talking to a tenant, it's a completely different conversation.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're using common sense and logical reasoning, which, yeah, you're crushing it, obviously, because you are. And that's interesting. Great idea. Okay, so you're getting a lot of different multi-buildings. Like, what's your sweet spot? Are you looking for 4 units plus, or what?
4s are the best. Honestly, 4s are the best because I can still get them for under. I just bought another one yesterday for $350,000. in like a sweet area. So you can, and I mean this, like these properties, like when they hit the market, they're going to sell for 500 when I'm buying them for 350 off market. So like triplexes and fourplexes off market is really the sweet spot. Definitely getting into the 12plexes, which is where I want to be. It's getting a lot more difficult to buy them. I mean, I bought my first one for 1.1 million. Now everybody in Chatham wants 2 million for them. Same net operating incomes. So it's getting a lot more difficult to find deals that make sense in Chatham in that asset.
The higher
class.
numbers. Okay.
Yeah. So,
and what's the city like as far as their requirements go?
In terms of
like you're you operating as a fourplex, do they recognize it as that? Is it not even a topic for conversation? Do you just go by what the zoning says? What level of due diligence do you feel is necessary to make sure you're safe, quote unquote?
Yeah, so we have a standard operating procedure when we purchase properties. One of them is when we're about to offer on a property, we send a quick email to somebody at the city of Chatham, Tina, who will essentially just verify what the current legal use is of the property. I would say 50% of the time it's what it's currently being operated at or operating as. So that's our first check mark. Now, depending on the purchase price, we won't care if it's legal or illegal. If we're gonna buy a fourplex for $300,000, I don't care if it's legal or not. As long as I understand, does it have enough parking? Does it currently have 5 meters or 4 meters on site, so I can maybe backtrace it that way and legalize it. But if I'm buying a fourplex on market for, let's say, 500,000, then I'm going to be a lot more diligent. And is this legal? Am I going to have to jump through a lot of hoops? Am I going to have to spend a lot more capital in order to legalize this if I ever had to? But I own an illegal triplex that was listed as a duplex, and it's getting appraised as a triplex. So I don't really think there's like a clear communication log of what's legal, what's not in Chatham, because sometimes appraisers will say it's legal, sometimes the city will say it's legal, but then the appraiser will say it's illegal, right? So that's just who are we really going to rely on? If it's currently being operated as is, I'm not really nervous. I mean, there's a housing crisis.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to throw this out there. I know a lot of guys that doing this in Hamilton. They're taking stuff that's only legal for 2, closing the permit and adding 2 more units, and then getting it appraised as a fourplex. That's a standard operating procedure in Hamilton, much bigger city. Also a housing crisis. Well, a housing crisis everywhere, right? So your vacancy is obviously quite low in Chatham. Yeah, is that across the board? Like people need places to live everywhere?
Oh yeah, I mean, you put a 2-bedroom unit up for rent, you're going to get 200 people messaging you in the next
at $1,500.
I mean, definitely weeding out a few people, but you're still going to get it because there's not much available. If you go on Facebook Marketplace and look at what's available in Chatham, you're probably going to find 3 or 4 units. There's really not much. And so, I mean, when you have the city of Chatham calling you and saying, hey, I heard you're a landlord, do you have anything available? Do you have any properties where you can add additional units? I think you're in a really good market, and that's what we're seeing in Chatham. So
they're pro expansion right now.
Yeah, I mean, I called them. I've got a bunch of fourplexes with huge lots in the back, and anytime I've called them about adding an additional unit, or 2 of our 5 fourplexes have massive 3-bedroom units on the main floor that I'd like to chop into 2 or 3 units. And both times I've called, there's been somebody that's called me back, asked me to get on a Zoom call with them, look at the zoning map, look at how we're going to make this possible. So they're very like, how can we make this easier for you?
Right.
So
are they really open to like tiny homes in the backyard or stuff like that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So a good friend of ours, they're actually trying to do some tiny homes, and the city of Chatham's like, tell us what your friends are doing in London, and we'll try and figure this out with you. So they're very like, because I think for the longest time, there really wasn't a lot of investments happening in Chatham. And now obviously people are flooding into the area because land's so cheap and properties are so cheap that there's a lot of money coming in. And I think they're in a situation now where it's like, what do we do? Like, how do we make this work for everybody? So they're on board to help you. So,
man, that'd be refreshing. I wish it was like that up around here.
Yeah.
So if somebody's coming down to Chatham and they're from far away, like what's reasonably possible for them, not reasonably possible for them as a strategy? Can they expect to get into kind of a perfect BRRRR type scenario if they were trying to do this for themselves? Or does that take a certain level of skill that's unlikely unless they're there?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say perfect BRRRRs are, you can do them all day long. for example, Taylor and I have been very intentional over the last 2 weeks to buy properties. We've bought a lot of properties on the MLS that in my opinion, that are going to be perfect BRRRRs. I just bought a single family house for 140,000. Going to put about 40,000 into it. It's going to refi at about 280. So like perfect BRRRR. There's these deals all day long. I just bought a duplex last night for 220. Going to put about 50 into it. It's going to refi around 350. So, I mean, you're getting really close to perfect BRRRRs all day long on the MLS. I think it's just being very intentional about like knowing the numbers on the back end, right? Because for the longest time, you'd buy a duplex and you're like, nothing's selling that's actually done up nicely. And so there aren't good comps, where now there's a lot of very good comps, right? Investors are coming in, flipping over these duplexes and putting them right back on the market, making very good margins. But then for investors like myself that are keeping them, we've got really good comps to support the projects we're doing. So I would say realistically, all my students are doing it. And I'm always happy to help more people get into the market and do them for themselves.
Okay.
So.
And your students are people that don't even necessarily live in Chatham, or?
No, I think the closest one's maybe an hour and a half. So, I mean, we're really doing this as like, really what we try and teach is how do you develop a business out of this? So it's not being that the boots on the ground all the time. It's like trying to do this while you still have a full-time day job. So a lot of it's virtual, and a lot of it's just as long as you can connect with a good contractor, a good realtor, a lot of things are kind of set in place for you. So,
now that's the challenge, right? You say that the contractor is the hardest part. So if you're bringing all these people into Chatham, I'm sure the contractors there are already in quite high demand. Is that the big hurdle for your students to find their contractors?
Yeah, I would say so. I think even for myself, sometimes contractors are difficult, right? I have a team. I have 3 different contractors I work with pretty much full time. I think on any given day, we've got about 10, 15 people working for us. So there's a lot of demand for us ourselves. Obviously, people coming in, they want to know like, who's Jeremy using? I want to use your realtor. I want to use your contractor. Where in the beginning, I was very open to that. And now I'm very cautious about who am I giving names out to. Essentially giving out no names in terms of contractors at this point. But you know what? Everyone has been able to overcome that obstacle. I think a lot of times that's just like what we're told, right? Contractors are very difficult to find, which they are, but this isn't it's not a very easy business if you're trying to grow aggressively. So you're going to face some sort of hurdles anyways. It just happens to be contractors, but.
Right. And I imagine you don't really try and push with a contractor until you've had some sort of a test run with them. Like they've shown you that they're reasonable in their rates, their bills. Like, how do you approach that? Because I've always been a bit of a control freak, and probably to my detriment, not wanting surprises. That's why I've always acted as my own general and then just hired the subs. But that's time consuming too. And there's a lot involved. So if you're hiring general contractors, are they giving you firm pricing? Are they giving you a range? Are you okay with that? How does that typically look?
Yeah. So on the pre-buy, part of our standard operating procedure on the pre-buy, it's usually just a budget. Where are we going to be at? So when we close on this thing, and I always want them to go high. And then we kind of dig into the numbers if I do get the property, things like that. Now, when we're doing projects, it's actually kind of project to project. So we're renovating our house right now, adding a secondary suite in our basement. That's all just time and material. So because I knew like there's no like me and Taylor are gonna change our mind so much. There's no way you can quote this and we're not gonna have an argument about it. So just time and material. What do you feel like you want to get paid? Now in Chatham, on the joint venture side of things, it's always hard quotes because I can't get my joint ventures a surprise. Like it's going to be 20,000 and now it's 35,000. Now for my personal stuff, I've used the same contractors. Like my main guy, I've used him since day one. He was the first person to ever do a maintenance call for me. And now he's doing full blown renovations for me. So I'm not really jumping contractor to contractor. And we kind of have this figured out, like what's a 1-bedroom going to cost when we have to gut most of it? What's a 1-bedroom going to cost if we're just doing flooring in a kitchen? Like we kind of have these numbers figured out. So maybe one's going to go 15,000, one's going to be 17, but we're always in that price range. And
okay, so a partial gut, 15 to 17,000 for a single unit.
Yeah, exactly.
And that could be a 1, 2, 3 bed.
Yeah, a lot of them. I've actually I've renovated 1 3-bedroom, but there's really not a lot of 3 bedrooms, right? Because we're buying a lot of these converted dwellings where you're just trying to squeeze in as many units as possible, and so usually you're just getting small 1 beds, maybe some 2 beds here and there, but we have that sort of figured out. But actually, we're using for our 12-plex, we're using a contractor that does very high volume, so he does actually a lot of apartment turnover. So with him, it's hard quotes. but for him, it's just speed, right? He does these 2-bedroom units in like a week, which is like, whereas like my guys would do it in like 4 weeks. So obviously his price is going to be a lot more competitive than my other guys, but the quality is going to be diminished a lot. So,
and are you usually typically providing your own materials in these instances, and then these guys are just quoting labor?
So we have a standard materialist procedure. So it really just details every single thing we order.
Same cabinets, flooring, trim, hardware for fixtures, everything. Layout wise, are they just copying what's already there, or they're reusing the same cabinets?
I don't think I've ever used the same cabinets.
So you just switch the cabinets, but keep the layout more or less usually?
I would say there's very few times where we'll take out a wall. Sometimes we've got like galleyway kitchens, so we take out that galley wall so that at least the kitchen's kind of opened up a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, everybody's kind of on the same board as that. So anytime that we introduce a new contractor, they have a list of all of our previous projects, so they can see like, okay, this is how Jeremy does these renovations. And then even with our standard list of renovations materials, for flooring, you call Rachel at this number. This is how you email her. This is how you pay her. And this is the exact flooring. This is how much it is per square foot. Same with the tile. Same with the kitchen cabinets, right? Like, hey, this is who you call. So it's essentially like I've replaced that duty now, right? So I spent probably 4 or 5 hours on this list, but now I'm saving 4 or 5 hours every single project, because before I was that guy where, hey, what do you need tomorrow for material? Oh, shoot, you need flooring? I can't even get you flooring tomorrow. Where it's completely on them, right? So they're quoting it and they're controlling it.
So before they give you a quote, you give them that package, and that package outlines where they're going to get everything and what it costs right now, and then you can update that as prices change. The only thing that's a bit of a variable, which I doubt you go into every single detail, is just when you get into framing and stuff. But I guess you're not even getting into much of that, because wood prices change so much, and
so I put an allowance. I put a lot of trust in my contractors. So I guess I never answered this question. So all of my quotes are just labor only, and the material is what it is. Pretty much every vendor that they use, as soon as they pay that vendor, I get the receipt automatically sent to my email. And usually it's got just, what job it's for. So it's very easy to systematize it that way. Because I don't want to waste, 2 contractors' time saying, quote out all the material you need, all the baseboard, all the doors, all the trim, call the places, figure out what it's going to cost roughly. And then they get screwed on the back. And especially with like, sometimes you buy a door, it's $100, and then, you go there 3 weeks later and you realize there's a huge shortage, and they're, trying to charge you $150 for that same door. So, generally what we're doing, just labor only.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I would like it like that too. It kind of gives a better layer of control for you. Now, what are you doing as far as the detail in this package? Is just every single contractor and how to get a hold of them? How many pages is that? Is there anything in addition to that you're including? Expectations for the site cleanliness, things like that, or do you not even go there?
Yeah, so site cleanliness is a huge one, and that was discovered early on. I took Taylor through a couple of renovations. She's like, these job sites are so terrible, they're so messy, and I was like, okay, and I was kind of freaked out too that same day, and I was like, this is never happening again. And so site cleanliness is a big one. For our 12 plexes, we have the same contractor doing that 12 plex. We made that those expectations from day one. This is how we want it completed, because we're trying to do more high-end luxury rentals in some of these bigger buildings. And then obviously, for our 4 plexes, maybe if they're in bad areas, we're going to, change the quality of work, where we're just going to do sort of cosmetic, versus if we're in a better area, we're going to do, sort of higher end finishes. But my contract, they've been with me so long that they kind of understand what we're doing.
Do you have any instances where you've dealt with somebody newer and they haven't met your expectations in some sort of significant way, or are they usually just minor things?
Yeah, I would say minor things. To tell you the truth, we've never really had a truly difficult situation with a contractor. I'm a pretty easy guy to get along with. I think I attract good people around me. And so with that, I mean, I've used the same contractor since day one. I've naturally contractors have actually come to me and said, Jeremy, I want us to come start doing more of your jobs. So I've just attracted kind of cool people around me. I had a plumber a couple of weeks ago, like a plumber that I've used honestly since day one. The amount of beer cases I bought for this guy, the amount of tools I bought for this guy, like just really incentivizing him. I think I'm like his best contractor to work for. And then he went to do a plumbing job for me and he just left. He's like, I'm never working for you again, Jeremy. I don't know what I did, but I think we're always going to have those issues regardless how much we try.
Yeah. occasionally you do need to prune them yourself too. I mean, I
Yeah.
had a plumber that I worked with forever and an HVAC guy. And for one reason or another, they both just started, the attitude shift was bringing down other people. And I'm like, as much as you guys get the job done, and the one was like incredibly like the best price ever, I'm just like, I can't afford what you're doing to my site and the people that work here. And I just had to get rid of them.
Yeah.
Because it ruins it for other people. I've had people who work for me say, yeah, we don't even want to work the job if that guy's on this job. I'm like, that's good to know. That guy's gone.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you can't grow. And then those are the ones that'll cause you the challenges you don't need or want. So like you said, you want people that you could be friends with, and not that you're necessarily going to be, but I mean, there's no, I'm up here, you're down there. We talk to each other. We treat each other with mutual respect. And
Exactly.
I like to approach the same way you do. Yeah. Just mutual respect. Everybody gets along. I'm very reasonable. It really seems like you are too, when you're dealing with them.
Yeah. But you're dealing with actual human beings. And I think that's like something that a lot of people overlook is like, they're the exact same people as you are. They're just doing a different job.
One of the things I like to make, is a really important thing is you got to understand that people don't want to be beaten down on price. Like I've seen a lot of like newbie investors, like they think that, I'm in the driver's seat, I'm going to show that contractor, make them jump through all these hoops. Like that contractor's gone. He's just going to go work for somebody who like treats him fairly and understands his value. So
I don't think I've never beaten anybody up on a price. The only time I've ever done it, so my HVAC company, I give a lot of business to them.
Yeah.
There was a time, and they're a huge company. They've got like 80 guys working for them, and I went to them. I said, hey, look, guys, I've given you probably $100,000 worth of business. Let's do something for Jeremy, because Jeremy just replaced 3 furnaces, right? So I'm okay with having those conversations. But yeah, my contractor that's working for me for $40 an hour, doing a quoted job for probably $50 an hour, I'm not going to beat him down to $48 an hour to lose him, because how low is he really going to go, and how much effect is it going to have on me? Because it's going to have a better effect on me if this guy's always around and always willing to do these small things for me that really add up over time.
They definitely do, man. Okay, what else did I want to ask you here? You got your property management structure, acquisition. Oh yeah, the salary and bonus for your acquisition, is that going to be roughly a 50% for your new guy? Like he's going to get 50% base salary and then 50% will be sort of bonuses?
Yeah, so they're going to get his base salary. And then for every deal that we buy, it's going to get $5,000, and whether that's on MLS or off MLS. And now there's very particular criteria that these properties need to meet, right? It's not just every property he gets. And then we're going to do for every 10 properties we buy, he's going to buy one. So really trying to put him in a position where he's also going to grow his future, because I'm not going to do this for the rest of my life. I'm not going to own, well, I shouldn't say this, but I don't foresee me owning 1,000 units. So there's a time where this slows down, right? So I want to prune him so he's maybe able to do what I'm doing in 1 or 2 years from now, right? Like we have a big goal. Let's grow in the next 2 years, incredibly aggressive, and then let's stop. That's what our plan is now. It's probably going to change, but that's our plan now. So for every 10 properties, he's going to get one, or at least have an opportunity to buy one. It doesn't have to be that 10th one. It could be whatever one fits his model. So he's going to learn, obviously, through learning about real estate, what really fits his criteria. And then we're going to do, I'm sure we're going to do a lot of wholesaling too. And that will be a 50-50 split on those fees. So,
okay. So just whatever you can get, do 50-50.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's something similar to what Matt McKeever's crew has done, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing is really, I want him to be set up. So if I do want to leave, I'm comfortable with, you can do your own thing. And we've talked about, I said, you're going to be making, you're probably going to be making me quite a bit of money. And you're going to realize very early on that you're probably leaving a lot of meat on the bone. And I said, we're always, so after the first 3 months, we're going to have an open discussion. What do you feel like is necessary now, right? Because again, like he's going to be providing a lot of value for us. So I want to make sure I'm providing that back to him. And whatever that maybe he buys a share in our company. I don't know what that looks like. All I know is I'm willing to compensate so that we all grow together to the level that we want.
Yeah, that's a great lesson, man. I really appreciate you sharing that. Do you mind telling me, like, I know you said you're going to be going to Costa Rica. Where do you see yourself in 5 and 10 years?
So I know where I see myself in 2 years. I wrote out a very detailed, vivid vision of what our life looks like in 2 years. But in 5 years, I think I'm going to be the guy that's golfing every single day and just I don't know, probably doing that a lot more. But over the next 2 years, what our life really is going to look like is we want to travel 6 months a year every single year for the next 2 years. Definitely don't see that as being impossible. That's why we're kind of building our business right now so that it is possible. We want to own 200 units in the next 2 years. So by December 31st, 2023, we're going to own 200 units. Again, I don't really see a big issue with getting to that point. We're going to have an awesome house hack here at our property. So we're going to be we're going to feel very free with, the amount of capital we need to make and the amount of capital we can kind of give away or help other people with. I mean, I still want to continue doing the coaching. I think it's very valuable for a lot of people. I don't even really charge that much for the value they're getting, right? If somebody buys one property learning from me, I think the values that it's already paid for. Really enjoying doing that. But really beyond that, man, I don't really know. My strategy changes like weekly, probably similar mindset to you, where my brain's, going over here, going over there. I don't really know where I'm going half the time. I've really tried to hone down on what it is I want. And really focus on, like, if I don't like doing something, I'm never doing it again. It is like the mindset I'm doing or pushing towards.
Yeah, that's one of those things that for me, like, there's a lot of I'm so grateful that I don't have to do it because I do get to choose, but that does breed a little bit of a complacency, right? If I could, I could push harder and, maybe I just get a little more creative. So it's not doing things I don't like, just finding people that'll do those jobs like you're doing. So I'll be certainly interested as you keep growing this and delegating more to hear about those experiences and how you've navigated through them. That'd be great.
Yeah, because I think a big thing that I was facing probably for the last 2 years is I was always chasing this needle that was always moving faster than I was moving. And I was never like fully content with where I've come. And it was actually when I was out in Hawaii at that mastermind where I was finally like, this is really cool. Because, like I had a goal of quitting my job in 5 years, I quit my job in a year. And me and Taylor were talking, we're like, can you imagine we thought 2 years ago we'd be at where we're at right now? And the answer is no. We would have thought we maybe had owned 20 units, 15 units, whatever the case may be. So we're like, now I'm like very grateful for where I'm at and like really enjoying the process and trying to celebrate all of these small wins that I necessarily didn't celebrate over the past 2 years. So,
yeah. Oh, you're killing it, man. It's, this has just been like a really, really packed episode in terms of gold nuggets. So people listening are going to need to give this another listen and watch and really internalize it. I really appreciate you sharing. Where do people find you if they want to learn more?
Yeah, so I'm most active on Instagram at Jeremy Ivany. Shoot me a DM and watch my stories every single day, trying to give inspiration to everybody to reach the goals that they're really trying to go after. So,
well, good on you. All right, buddy. Really appreciate it. Any parting words of wisdom before we send off?
Yeah, take action, seek advice from those doing what you want to do, and never take no for an answer.
Oh, I like it. All right, man. That was great. Thanks again.
No problem.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Please make sure to share this episode far and wide. Help it help more people. I really appreciate you tuning in. Thanks. I'll see you on the next one.